Okay. Are you guys ready for the second set? All right, here we go. I got a few announcements, and then we're going to get started. So all y'all who are at the bar who want to come back in, please do come back in and take your seat. Thank you. All right, first thing. I promised you that you would have the opportunity to make an additional donation. And, all right, basically, here's the ethos, and here's how the wobbly thing works. There was this old buzzard named Karl Marx, and he once said, from each according to his ability to each according to his need. And you can take that for what it's worth. But what we do try to practice here is, if you're living on the street and you want to come hear this show, come on in. You don't have to pay nothing. If you're gainfully employed, like I am on the railroad, I should be paying a lot of money to see this show. So think about it. And I don't want anybody who is unemployed or making minimum wage to put anything in this jug. But for those of you who are gainfully employed, making good money, and think this is a pretty badass show, please feel free to put a few dollars in here, okay? It's all going to the musicians to further this cause. Thank you. And this is going to go around. We're going to hand it off right here. All right, here's the second announcement. The Industrial Workers of the World does a film series, and we do it right here in the studio on 4th. And it's every other month, the third Monday of the month, which means a week from tonight in this exact room, if you want to come see a labor film, you can come right here. It's free of charge. Once again, though, we're going to beg for money. This is the film, and you're all going to get a flyer to take home and put on your refrigerator so you don't forget, because we want you back here next Monday. This is a film called Jailed for Their Words. This isn't exactly a selling point to join the IWW. But in 1918, there was a huge trial, and 101 leaders of our organization went to federal penitentiary. Not because they threatened anyone, not because they killed anyone, not because they robbed or stealed, but because of what they said. And they said that the system we live under needs to go, and we need a more just system based on equality, solidarity, democracy, and freedom. So anyway, they went to federal penitentiary, and that's what this film is about. And it's called Jailed for Their Words. It was made in 2008. It's only 57 minutes. And I'm going to hand this around, so please take one, put it on your fridge, and remember to come back here next Monday. So I'll start right here. Now, last but not least, many of you are probably already on our listserv, so you get emails about what we do. And those things that we do generally include things like showing films, having events like tonight, or pickets, demonstrations, rallies, and so forth that you might be interested in if you have an interest in getting rid of the awful system that we live under and creating a more democratic society. So if you want to be on the listserv, I'm going to hand this list around. If the first page fills up, there's a second one and a third one. So please put your name. Don't worry about your phone, but you can always put that too. But mainly your name and your email address. And I'll hand this around. All right, y'all ready for round two? Tonight we have some special guests with us, and I met these boys back in 2012. And how many of you know Woody Guthrie? How about Pete Seeger? In 2012, it was the 100th anniversary of Woody Guthrie's birth. And there was a lot of shows around the country honoring and celebrating Woody's life. And here in Reno and the surrounding area, some guys got together and they started performing as Woody and Pete. and they celebrated Woody's 100th anniversary, 100th birthday. Anyway, believe it or not, that gave some of us on the railroad the idea of why not celebrate the 100th anniversary of Joe Hill's execution 3 years later, which is now 2015. So it's all kind of come full circle. Anyway, we're honored to have with us tonight two young lads. They personify Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie. David Fennimore and Tim Gorlangton. They're going to entertain you with a few songs here tonight. So give them a warm welcome. Thank you.
Hold the phone. Look at that, Pete.
Hey, look at this. There's real people out here, Woody.
Well, Pete and I have been hitting the road, traveling around with them starvation armories of wandering workers, busted, disgusted, not to be trusted. We've been organizing down there in Oklahoma, and them Vigies, they had a way of breaking up the union meetings by coming in there, and you better watch out. Better look back there if you see some fellas kind of siling in with baseball bats and blackjacks and shotguns. They're probably some of them vigilantes come to bust up the meeting. So we were in one of those meetings one time, and we saw them all coming in, lining up in the back, getting ready to bust up the meeting. So we got every man, woman, and child in that union meeting singing along. And our good music tamed them savage beasts, and they just kind of slunk out as the rats that they are. So I went home that night, and I borrowed a typewriter, drank a gallon of red wine, and wrote this song to show them union busters what we think of their gospel of hate. And it goes kind of like this.
There once was a union lady who never was afraid of the goons and gangs and the company finks and the deputy sheriffs who made the raid. She went to the union hall when the meeting it was called, and when the Legion boys came round, she always stood her ground.
Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union.
I'm sticking to the union. I'm sticking to the union. Come on now.
Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union.
I'm sticking to the union till the day I die. Now the union maid was wise to the tricks of company spies. She couldn't be fooled by the company school. She organized a guide. She always got her way when she struck for better pay. And when the union boys came round, she always stood her ground.
Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union.
Yeah, I'm sticking to the union. I'm sticking to the union. I'm sticking to the union.
Oh, you can't scare me,
I'm sticking to the union. I'm sticking to the union. Sing it now till the day I die. One more time.
do it. Oh, you can't scare me.
I'm sticking to the union. I'm sticking to the union. I'm sticking to the union.
No, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the union.
I'm sticking to the union till the day I die. Yes, indeed.
So, as some of you know, I went off there and joined the Merchant Marine because I knew I could build the union movement and help fight Hitler at the same time.
There you go.
I came home on leave, and I was asked to play a benefit there in Baltimore for the local shipbuilders union, and I went there with my friends Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee. We played the song and played a number of songs there, and then they laid out a big spread for us, but you know, they told the colored fellas they had to go eat in the kitchen.
Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee. Now,
So I said, if they ain't good enough to eat with you, neither am I. And I overturned all them tables full of food. And I told them I just got back from Europe fighting fascism, but it's about time we started fighting fascism right here in the US of A. So I went home and borrowed a typewriter, drank a gallon of wine, and wrote this song. Made it up, it goes kind of like this. Well, I'm gonna tell you fascists, you ought to be surprised. People around this great big world are getting organized. You're bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose. Sing along now. All of you fascists bound to lose. All of you fascists fascist bamboos. All of you fascist bamboos. You bamboos, you fascist bamboos. People around this great big world, they're walking side by side, marching across them fields of blood where 1 million fascists died. You bamboos, you fascist bamboos. All of you fascist bamboos. All of you fascist bamboos. All of you fascist bamboos. You bamboos, you fascist bamboos. One more time. All of you fascist bamboos. All of you fascist bamboos. All of you fascist bamboos.
George and Chris and David back up here. Come on, boys. Woo.
I like to point out I have my Swedish pick.
Woody and Pete.
Otherwise known as Tim and David.
Y'all sing along on this one. Sing it, kids.
Well, thank you for coming again. As we were talking backstage. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, plug in our guitars. Yeah. Dave, you want to plug in now or?
I won't be using mine for a minute.
Okay. I'm in, Doug. Thank you. By the way, thank you, Doug, for such lovely sound tonight. Huh? Hey! Yeah, as focusing as you learn to appreciate when you got a professional working with you. So this song, another great labor anthem, but it came along about 20 years later. And Chris and I were talking about this last night. I think one of the most important things to remember about Joe Hill is that he really is the lead wire there in that long string.
He is the deep taproot of which all of the great music that I love grows from.
Yeah, I mean, Woody, Pete, Utah Phillips, Bob Dylan, Arlo Guthrie, all these great singers that came after him. You know, Joan Baez, right? Ani DeFranco, and David Rovics and ourselves were all influenced by a man who wrote political songs 100 years ago and ultimately paid the price because of it, you know? So this song comes from a woman named Florence Reese, a mine worker in Bloody Harlan County, a mine worker in the early 1930s. And they came to beat her husband up one night, the thugs, and he cleared out of town because he was scared, you know, and he wanted to keep living. And when they came to her door, they smashed the door open, and they looked under every bed, they trashed the house, they looked in the closets to make sure her husband wasn't there, even though she told me he had gone. And in her anger, she grabbed a page off the counter on the wall when they left. She sat down at her kitchen table right there, and she wrote the words to this immortal song, Which Side Are You On? Sing it with us. Come all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell, how the good old Union has come in here to dwell. Which side are you on? 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 My daddy was a miner, now he's in the air and sun. He'll stick with the Union till every battle's won. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
I hear in Harlan County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Take it, Tim. They're going. Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab or will you be a man? Which side are you on? 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 Don't scab for the bosses. Don't listen to their lies. Us working folks ain't got a chance unless we organize. Which side are you on? 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 Tell me, which side are you on? 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 Tim Gorlangton and David Fennimore. They'll be back at the end. Thank you. And now, David Rovics.
And Chris Chandler as well. We're always just changing things around and keeping people on their toes. But I've outsourced my brain, and now everything is so clunky, and my stage presence always sucked before, and now it's gotten worse because. And there's too many letters in the alphabet also, and then you have to know the alphabet and which in order, and I have to sing the whole thing every time, you know? It's like, okay.
It's been a real treat for me on the road working with David Rovics for the past few weeks, providing musical accompaniment for stories and poetries, and also getting to hear him perform every night, and being on the road with George Mann. It's been a real fun, and so thank you guys for coming out tonight.
And this is the second tour that me and Chris Chandler have participated in together. The first was in 1997, so we waited a little while, but yeah, that ages us. We're even older than that.
A story in the news recently caught my imagination. And I don't know about you, but my imagination does not like to be caught. My imagination is like a wild animal, and when caught in a trap, it will gnaw its own leg off to get free. But fortunately, my imagination also believes it is a millipede, and it could spare the leg. So I put on a fresh t-shirt and headed out the door, forgetting that somewhere beneath the rubble of a collapsed 10-story garment building in Bangladesh lies one of the legs of my imagination, and there it shall remain, with the remains of the poorly educated women working for shockingly low wages who died there.
Sometimes I walk the aisles of the grocery store, and I think about a day some 20 years before, where this chicken came from south of the Mason-Dixon line, the Imperial Foods Factory in Hamlet, Caroline. The 3rd day of September, 1991, where for so many good people was the day the race was run.
It seems that the hole left by my missing leg began to grow until it became a giant black hole, sucking the white clouds of my imagination into a time warp, and it did not stop until a full century had passed. And I found myself no longer in the sweatshops of Bangladesh, but in the sweatshops of New York City. The year was 1911, and another 10-story garment factory was on fire, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. And the victims of this tragedy were again mostly poorly educated women working for shockingly low wages. And just like in Bangladesh, the management had locked all the workers inside before the fire to prevent them from stealing. In both places, fire escapes collapsed from the weight of fleeing workers. In both cases, local inspectors had warned that the building was unsafe. And in both cases, workers were told they would be fired if they did not continue working. In New York City, these events horrified the nation. But horror, my friends, is the only catalyst for change, because content people do not take to the streets.
Sometimes I walk the aisles and I think about the padlocks on the fire doors, barred and blocked. The owner didn't want his workers stealing chickens out the back. It's a right to work state. They complain, they get the sack. So Tyson made some money. Workers lost their lives. Once the fire was put out, the number dead was 25.
Less than a year after the events in New York, garment workers across the Northeast had been organized by the industrial workers of the world. In New York, the events helped fuel a movement of organized workers that brought us workplace safety standards, the abolishment of child labor, minimum wage, the 8-hour day, the things this country should be proud. However, the real engines of this country, the corporations, run from these American values like traitors.
Sometimes I walk the aisles, I can hear the screams of those blasted by hot oil, when old hose ruptured at the seams, of those blasted by hot oil, when the fireball arose, while more oil fueled the fire, being blasted from the hose. More oil fueled the fire, the room filled up with smoke, when those who weren't already dead then began to choke.
In Bangladesh, the accident killed 10 times the numbers of workers in New York, whose wages are 20 times worse. The volume of clothing produced 100 times greater, and the profits 1,000 times more obscene. One would think that the international outrage would be proportionate. If it had been a terrorist bomb that killed 1,200 people in the name of a profit, it would scare the pants off of us. But when it is corporate neglect and greed that kills 1,200 in the name of a very different profit, we go to Walmart and buy another pair of pants.
Sometimes I walk the aisles, somehow feel ashamed. 11 years of operation, the inspectors never came. Inspectors never came to look to see if they did anything according to the book. Sometimes I walk the aisles and I wonder to myself, how many people died to put these nuggets on the shelf?
In the 21st century, American corporations continue to have their wares manufactured in 19th century working conditions. And that too catches my imagination. And it is an active imagination, because I can really envision a day when large American box stores and name brands take pride in American values and no longer sell merchandise made in such un-American conditions. Where American icons such as Sears, where America shops, the National Football League, and American League Baseball would take pride in American values. Where Walmart's slogan, save more, live better, started living up to the live better part of their slogan. Where Gap did not mean income gap. Where Disney's slogan, the happiest place on earth, was not accurate because it was so busy making the rest of the world so miserable. Where Dell Computer's slogan, get more out of now, was not aimed at a 13-year-old girl on an assembly line. And where Nike's just do it and Target's expect more, pay less, did not sound like it was coming out of the mouth of a factory boss with a writing prop in his hand. It is time, my friends, that we Americans demand that the working conditions we insist upon for ourselves be true of the things we buy. Because after all, we are what we buy.
Sometimes I walk the aisles. Chris Chandler. We'll be hearing more from him momentarily, or maybe, a few moments. So a communist and an anarchist were in a car together. Who was driving? The cop. I don't drive a car because they run on gas, but if I did, it'd run on biomass. I ride a bike, or sometimes a skateboard, so piss off all you drivers and your yuppie hordes sitting all day in the traffic queues. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't eat meat, I just live on moldy chives or the donuts that I found in last week's dumpster dives. Look at you people in that restaurant, I think you are so sad when you could have been eating bagels like the ones that I just had. I think it is a shame all the bourgeois things you do. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't wear leather and I like my clothes in black, and I made a really cool hammock from a moldy coffee sack. I like to hop on freight trains, I think that is so cool. It's so much funner doing this than being stuck in school. I can't believe you're wearing those brand new shiny shoes. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't have sex, and there will be no sequel because heterosexual relationships are inherently unequal. I'll just keep on moshing to anti-flag and crass until there are no differences in gender, race, or class. All you brainwashed breeders, you just haven't got a clue. I'm a better anarchist than you. I don't believe in leaders, I think consensus is the key. I don't believe in stupid notions like representative democracy. Whether or not it works, I know it is the case that only direct action can save the human race. So when I see you in your voting booth, then I know it's true. I'm a better anarchist than you. I am not a pacifist, I like throwing bricks, and when the cops have caught me and I'm taking a few licks, I always feel lucky if I get a bloody nose, because I feel so militant and everybody knows. By the time the riot is all through, I'm a better anarchist than you. I'm a better anarchist than you. So Joe Hill was a refugee from a poor war-torn country, a country that had been at war almost constantly for 400 years with one of its neighbors, a country that participated in the longest ongoing war between any two nations in the history of the world, and that's Sweden. Sweden lost 1/3 of its population to emigration. It's another neighbor of Sweden that's often been at war with Sweden is Norway, and Norway lost 1/2 of its population. It was under Swedish occupation, so it was even worse off back then. And this country was largely populated by people who were either brought here in chains or who fled persecution and war. And those people fleeing persecution and war primarily came from Europe, because those were the refugees we wanted here. Those were the ones that were allowed in. The Hondurans and the Guatemalans we send back to their deaths. And the IWW was a movement that was welcoming of people from all over the world, and which was exceptional for the labor movement at the time, which was, following a lot of the diktats of American racism and sexism, but not the IWW, and it's a good thing. And it's nice, too, that there's countries welcoming refugees. Unfortunately, this one is not one of those countries, in terms of the government. But it's nice that there are some countries welcoming refugees. I was just in Europe for 2 months and watching the refugees walking down the highway, talking to them. And it's a surreal thing being there. And I was just thinking about history, as I often do, and thinking about another time when there were hundreds of thousands of refugees on the move in Europe, except it was a different situation. They weren't just welcomed, they were rescued. In 1492, Colombo crossed the ocean, only one of many harbors that would then be set in motion. As his men cut limbs of Arawaks and burned children at the stake, plundering a continent for God's sake. In 1492, when King Ferdinand won Granada, he passed a law known as the Edict of Alhambra. It was as the landlords wanted, as his gracious God had willed, that any Jew in Spain had 3 months to leave or else be killed. And 800,000 Europeans became refugees and headed east across the Mediterranean Sea. In 1492, they were starving and bereft. The king said they'd be safe up until the time they left. But Christian Europeans cut them open with their swords, searched their stomachs for gold, and dumped them overboard. When 800,000 Europeans became refugees and headed east across the Mediterranean Sea. In 1492, the Sultan sent his fleet to go rescue Sephardi after the Ottoman defeat. Hundreds of thousands of people who knew their deaths were near were rescued by Muslims and taken to Izmir. In 1492, the Sultan said that's fine if they'd impoverish their kingdom just to enrich mine. The Sultan also passed an edict. He said, welcome home. Now treat your new neighbors as if they were your own. When 800,000 Europeans became refugees and headed east across the Mediterranean Sea. And headed east across the Mediterranean Sea. In 1492,
did not dream I saw Joe Hill last night. I simply saw Joe Hill last night, alive in you and alive in me. The work of Cesar Chavez and the work of Eugene Debs is not 75 or even 25 years dead. It will never die, says me, for it will never die in me.
The copper bosses killed you, Joe. They shot you, Joe, says I. Takes more than guns to kill a man, says Joe. I didn't die, says Joe. I didn't die.
The billy clubs of Ferguson, the tear gas on the streets of Occupy killed you, Joe. Ran you out of town, says some. But it takes more than that to shut us down. That is why we'll stay right here. That is why we will not die.
And standing there as big as life, smiling with his eyes, says Joe, what they forgot to kill went on to organize. Went on to organize.
And organize he did. And standing there as big as life is the work of the United Students Against Sweatshops, the School of the Americas Watch, United Mountain Defense, Food Not Bombs, Jobs with Justice, Earth First, Black Lives Matter, Anonymous, Nurses Without Borders, who struggle to create a world in which we live in freedom from oppression, valued as whole human beings rather than exploited in the quest of the wrong kinds of profits. They went on to organizing as they fight police brutality, organizing as they fight the industrial prison complex, organizing as they fight to force queer and transgendered issues onto the agenda, force as we fight, as we continue to organize, to fight for a living wage. Joe Hill is alive, and those who went on to organize the unorganized.
From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where workers strike and organize, it's there you'll find Joe Hill. It's there you'll find Joe Hill.
And from Johannesburg to Immokalee, from Zuccotti Park to Ferguson, from Oakland to Baltimore, from Prague to Sidi Bouzid, that is where you will find Joe Hill, for that is where you will find you and me.
I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night.
I did not dream I saw Joe Hill last night. I was Joe Hill last night. I am Joe Hill today. I will be Joe Hill tomorrow. I am Joe Hill. I am Michael Brown. I am Victor Hara. I am Rachel Corey. I am Joe Hill. I am Joe Hill. I will never die, for I will never die in me.
Die, says he. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Ithaca, New York, George Mann.
Thank you. Well, we've only been on the road 5 days, but boy, it's been a lot of fun, and we got another week ahead of us, so we're looking forward to it. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. I mean, I got to tell you, Ron, if we had 100 organizers like you in the labor movement, we'd have a labor movement, you know? Ron Kamenkow, thanks, and the Wobbs here, of course, for helping, too. But Ron, you know, Ron came up with this vision about a year ago, and I never expected that a year ago we'd actually be sitting in the same home, in the same hometown with him, you know? So that beautiful song, I Dreamed I Saw Joe Hill Last Night, and Chris Chandler's words with it, right? Yeah. A lot of songs about loss and death. And Joe was framed up on a murder charge, as I'm sure most of you know. It's a long story. I won't tell it here, but the odds are stacked against him from the very beginning. And we've had a lot of loss. And I want to sing you a song about loss. It's kind of a science fiction kind of folk song because it takes place in the near future, the not too distant future, about a year from now. And it presupposes a few things that may or may not come to pass, and that you may or may not support personally, like Hillary Clinton being elected, right? Well, yes or no, everybody has their opinion. You're going to vote for Donald? Or you're not going to vote at all, right? Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's hope, yeah. Of course. But in the end, you vote every day with your body on the line as an activist. That's what Evan Hennessy said, right? This song is about something like that. And you all remember where you were when JFK was killed, right? Those of you who are old enough. For our generation, of course, it was where you were when John Lennon was killed or when you first heard. And this song talks about something like that. The death of one of our beloved media figures. Most people remember where they were that day. Radio screen, they had shot JFK. Or the night John Lennon was killed in the streets that he loved in old New York City. Fast forward the election of 2016, which Hillary won, and the Dems swept up clean. Perhaps we missed warning signs, nothing foreboded the day that Rush Limbaugh exploded. And I don't mean metaphorically. No one can explain this November surprise, or how we made so much of so many lies. We're left without answers, we'll never know why. Perhaps God was just getting even. Oh, the old white men bowed on one knee deep in prayer. Jackbooted neocon fascists were there. Teabaggers wept till their faces were bloated. The day that Rush Limbaugh exploded. The day that Rush Limbaugh exploded. Rush claimed he was fighting for the little guy, and he built a big empire, but empires die. And as he got bigger, his waistline did too. A fat head on a fat body. And he never had children, his Johnson shot blanks. He needed Viagra to crank up his crank. He loved Oxycontin, popped them just like candy, but he'd execute all those druggies. Yeah, he would. The old white men bowed on one knee deep in prayer. The goose-stepping, skin-headed fascists were there. The teabaggers wept till their faces were bloated. The day that Rush Limbaugh exploded. The day that Rush Limbaugh exploded. Now, I don't know if this is a Christian thing to do or not, but could I get a hallelujah? He spewed out his hatred for year after year, his inflated ego, his crocodile tears, his hatred for women, his race-baiting jive, which we long suspected helped keep Rush alive. Came to a head on that November day. Spontaneous combustion just blew Rush away. Mysteries of the universe can't be explained, but I blame affirmative action. Oh, the old white men bowed on one knee deep in prayer. The business and banking and war thugs were there. Teabaggers wept till their faces were bloated. Didn't take long. The day that Rush Limbaugh exploded. The day that Rush Limbaugh exploded. The history books have all noted. The day that Rush Limbaugh exploded. Kapow! Thank you. I'm going to bring the boys up to sing on this one, and then we got a couple of closers for you. This is a song that Cy Kahn wrote, a great labor folk singer and songwriter. And he wrote this about the circumstances of Joe's death. It's called Paper Heart. When Joe was executed in Salt Lake City in Sugar House Prison, November 19th, right? Just a week from now, they pinned a paper heart right on his chest there so that the marksmen, the executioners would have something to aim at from the building. And they were all concealed, behind gun slits so nobody would know who they were. There were 5 executioners. 4 of them had live bullets. 1 of them had a blank. So in some way, they could always, I guess, deal with the guilt of killing, right? Imagining they had fired the blank, right? Yeah, you bet it was. It was an assassination. Yes. And even President Wilson couldn't stop it. Yep, yes. So this beautiful song from Cy Khan called Paper Heart tells that story. There's a long, long line of people just trying to keep from crying. There's always someone dying, but today's just not the same. There's a man shot dead in Utah with a paper heart pinned on him, framed up without warning. I guess you know his name. Well, you say you saw him out last night, but I hear him every day in the voices of the people, in the songs they sing and play. Well, they framed him up and they shot him down. This whole wide world is burying ground, but the songs of the working people are his marking stone. One big union, I know that's where I'll find him, playing cards with Bill Haywood, telling jokes with Mother Jones, Casey Jones and long-haired preachers, Mr. Block and Scissor Bill, sent to hell a-flying by songs no one can kill. Or you say you saw him out last night, but I hear him every day in the voices of the people, in the songs they sing and play. Well, they framed him up and they shot him down. This whole wide world is burying ground, but the songs of the working people are his marking stone. Sing with us, ready? Oh, you say you saw him out last night, but I hear him every day in the voices of the people, in the songs they sing and play. Well, they framed him up and they shot him down. This whole wide world is burying ground, but the songs of the working people are his marking stone. Thank you. Well, so we're going to do 2 pieces to close. We're going to do one, and then we want to bring on our special guests, Tim and David, back. But we want to tell you the story of the last piece that Joe wrote before he died.
What's 2?
Huh?
Oh, yeah, there's another one. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What?
So you said 2 Davids, right?
Oh,
but I was
2
wondering who the other David was, and then I realized.
The other David.
Yeah.
We got David here. This David.
So comrades, come rally, and a last fight let us face. The International unites the human race. So comrades, come rally, and a last fight let us face. The International unites the human race.
Well, as the song says, he was framed up on a murder charge. With the execution date set for November 19th, Joe spent his last nights writing thank you letters and goodbyes to so many of his friends. He sent a telegram to Big Bill Haywood, Don't mourn for me, Bill. Organize. He said, it's 100 miles to the Utah state border. Could you arrange to have my body transported there to be buried? I don't want to be found dead in Utah. He kept his humor to the end. And the night before Joe was executed, a reporter asked him, did he have a will? And Joe said, I have no possessions to dispose of. But then he sat down on his bed and he wrote this poem right there and passed it through the bars to the reporter. And it's come to be known as Joe Hill's last will.
My will is easy to decide, for there is nothing to divide. My kind don't need to fuss and moan, moss don't cling to a rolling stone. My body, if I could choose, I would to ashes it reduce, and let the merry breezes blow my dust to where some flowers grow. And perhaps some fading flower then would come to life and bloom again. This is my last and final will. Good luck to all of you, Joe Hill.
So comrades, come rally, and the last fight let us face. The Internationale unites the human race. So comrades, come rally, and the last fight let us face. The Internationale unites the human race.
Well, come on up,
Woody
David.
and Pete, come on up.
David Fennimore and Tim Gorlangton, come on up and join us for this last one. First off, thank you, Doug, behind the board there for wonderful sound tonight, as always. Good to have a good sound man. We were in a hall and they said, we got a sound system and those little round speakers in the ceiling, you know what I mean, right? So thank you. And thank you, Mike, for opening your wonderful establishment to us on a Monday night, right? And thank you all for coming, of course. David Rovics and Chris Chandler. What about a hand for them, huh? Thank you. And our special guests, Tim and David. Woo. Now, if I were going to make a wager on what song we're going to sing, I probably wouldn't make much money tonight. You know it, right? Solidarity Prayer. All together. When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there shall be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? For the union makes us strong. Everybody! Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
What ought have we in Parliament with the greedy parasites who would lash us into serfdom and would crush us with their might? Have we anything left to us but to organize and fight? For the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
It is we who plowed the prairies, built the cities where they trade, dug the mines and built the workshops, endless lines of railroad laid. Now we stand outcast and starving, miss the wonders we have made, but the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. They have taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn, yet without our brains and muscle, not a single wheel can turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. the might of armies magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old. For the Union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the Union makes us strong. For the Union makes us strong. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good night. Hey guys, you want to join us? All right. Roll the G and D7. All right, we're going to do one more for you. Thank you so much. Roll the Union on. G, D7. Now, this is a song written by an African-American sharecropper way back in the 30s, a man named John Hancox. And he wrote some great Union songs, and then he was lost. And nobody knew about him or forgotten. He didn't have any records. He was just a great organizer in the South. And he had some wonderful songs. And in the early 80s, they actually found him. I think he was living just outside San Diego in a retirement home. And activists in the labor movement brought him around, and Pete Seeger and others did concerts with him. And he had a great little couple of years before he passed away. And we remember people like John Hancock because he'd written songs that are great on the picket line, like this one. We're going to roll the Union on. Yeah? I want to hear you sing with us. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We're going to roll. We're going to roll. We're going to roll the Union on. We're going to roll. We're going to roll. Going to roll. We're going to roll. Going to roll the Union on. And if the boss gets in the way, we're going to roll right over him. Roll right over him. Roll right over him. If the boss gets in the way, we're gonna roll right over him. Gonna roll the Union. Everybody, we're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll the Union on. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll the Union on.
If the cops get in the way, we're gonna roll right over them. Roll right over them. Roll right over them. If the cops get in the way, we're gonna roll right over them. We're gonna roll the Union on.
Everybody, we're gonna roll.
We're gonna roll.
We're gonna roll.
We're gonna roll.
We're gonna roll
the Union on.
We're gonna roll.
We're gonna roll.
We're gonna roll.
We're gonna roll.
We're gonna roll
the Union.
And if the scabs get in the way, we're gonna roll right over them. Roll right over them. Roll right over them. If the scabs get in the way, we're gonna roll right over them. Gonna roll the Union on. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll the Union on. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll the Union. One more time. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll the Union on. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll. We're gonna roll the Union on. Chris Chandler, David Rovics. Thank you, Tim and David. Thank you. Good night.
Hey, everybody. I've never seen a crowd that just get up and walk out of the room. So I don't know if you want to hang around and talk. I think they're kind of tuckered out and played out. But hey, if you want to stay, we can stay as long as we want. Mike is willing to host it, and please, if you're interested in buying any of the CDs, like I say, Chris Chandler, David Rovics, and George Mann all have their CDs for sale here. If you're interested in joining the IWW, talk to Delegate Paul. And thanks for coming, everybody, and we'll see you next Monday for the film, okay? Right on. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.